Welcome to Beerstories from Beerstory Brewhouse and my series on legendary and historical beers. Today I'm going to talk about the Belgian Pale Ale Orval. If you don't want to miss any videos on Beerstories, please click like and subscribe down the corner. You'll help me out, you help out the channel, and make me very happy. Also follow me on Facebook and Instagram. So, this beer is probably the most unique beer in the world because of its history, how they made it back then and how they still make it today. It hasn't changed since 1931. It was a unique beer then, it's a unique beer now. And I'm gonna tell you why in this video. What I'm also gonna tell you is why this beer is probably what the original IPA would have tasted like in India when they were shipped from England down to India. But I'll get back to that later on in this video. The recipe of this beer is actually not that unique because it's a pale ale. It's mostly pale malts. There's a little bit of caramel in here. Then it's hopped with Strisselspalt, Hallertauer, Styrian Goldings. And the yeast is a Belgian ale yeast. So nothing special about that actually. But then they get a little innovative. It's dry hopped. Not many Belgian breweries dry hop their beer. They copied that from the English. And then when they bottle this beer, they add Brettanomyces or bread. And that makes this beer so unique in the way it develops flavors, especially over time. It's actually, when they bottle this beer, it's probably only about 5.9 ABV. They write on the bottle that is 6.2, and that's an average. When the bread has been fermenting the beer in the bottle for about a year or more, it would actually have an ABV about 6.9 instead. And that's one of the things that makes this beer so unique. The Brettanomyces will actually keep developing all these flavors, eating them up again, developing new flavors, eating them up again, developing new flavors. And it will do that about every 3 to 6 months. So when you get this beer fresh, it's hoppy. There's a clear aroma from. It's actually kind of like a Czech lager in the hops. You can smell the aroma also comes from the yeast. It's kind of fruity. Smells delicious. It's pretty bitter, not West Coast bitter, but it's bitter. You can taste the bitterness, you can taste the sweetness, you can taste the fruity esters from the yeast. It's a Belgian yeast, but there are no phenols, there's no clove or white pepper or anything like that. It's just some fruity esters. And then you can taste the hops. It's kind of herbal, floral, spicy hops. So well balanced, so delicious. It's kind of dry, probably from the bread. This beer is 3 months old. Typically Orval beers will tend to peak at about 6 to 9 months. That's when the bread really have kicked in. The hops will start to mellow out. It will still be bitter, but the aroma from the hops will be almost gone. You will still be able to taste some of the spiciness from the hops. But the Brettanomyces will start to develop these kind of funky leather flavors in a very good way, I promise you. And the slow oxidation of the beer just through the bottle will also start to make these sherry notes and the bread will eat the rest of the sugar, so it will be drier, higher in alcohol. And then it just starts to be so complex. Right now, it's not that complex. It's a great beer, really easy to drink. It's not a complex beer yet. There's still a lot going on, but it's not complex. It's not. You can taste where everything comes from right now. If you wait 1.5 years, you will get a totally different experience. You'll get this old, slowly oxidized sherry note and these leather notes and the funky notes. It will be a totally different beer. There will be no aroma or flavor from the hops left. And it will be very complex. And that's just the development of this beer over time. And that makes it so unique. It has a low ABV. It shouldn't be able to withstand time so well and develop over time. We see this in big stouts and so on. Not in a beer like this. It shouldn't be possible, but it is. And if you haven't tried this before, you should buy 4 or 5 of them at the same time. Try one when you buy them. Wait half a year, try another one. Wait half a year, try another one. Wait half a year, just to see how this crazy development. And it develops in cycles. Every 3 to 6 months, it will have a new flavor. Because when the bread eats when there's no more sugar left, the bread will start to eat its own flavor compounds, and will actually go back and forth in these cycles and keep developing, and it will just be, it's just an amazing beer experience. There's a fun fact about the brewery as well. They started brewing this beer in 1931 because the abbey where it's placed at, Notre Dame, they needed money, so they started brewing beer, as many other abbeys did. They got the trappist order in the 90s, I think, or was it the 80s? It's not that old for a trappist, but that doesn't matter really, because the interesting thing about this is the fish in the logo has a ring in its mouth, and some kind of royal lady from Italy, Matilda of Tuscany, was in the area in Belgium, and she was thirsty, and there was kind of a river thing going through the area, the valley where she was, and she wanted to drink some of the water and dropped her wedding ring in the water. And she prayed to God that she would get the ring back, and in that moment a fish came up with a ring in its mouth. That's why it's on the logo. And she was so thankful to God that she built an abbey right there. And then and now they brew beer at the abbey. Also make cheese and stuff like that, like a typical Trappist monastery they do. So that's a fun fact. But I love the history of this. I love the beer itself. I love the uniqueness in this beer and how it develops over time. But one of the really interesting things about this beer is the comparison to old English IPAs and how they probably would have tasted 200 years ago. Because shipwrecks found from when they transported the IPA from England to India, there have been shipwrecks. They have found shipwrecks where they have found barrels with beer, barrels with IPA, and samples from those barrels. They found that there were hops in the barrels, so they were dry hopped, of course, but there were also Brettanomyces in the beer. So an aged Orval will probably taste like the IPAs that the Englishmen they got when the ships got to India, and I find that so interesting. So when you taste this, it's kind of like you're tasting back in time. And it tastes wonderful. If you stick around to the end, there'll be 2 videos up here that YouTube wants you to see. Please click like and subscribe down in the corner. If you want to write me, do it through Instagram and Facebook. And I would really love if you ask questions down in the commentary. And also what your experience with aging this beer is. Please write it down in the commentary. I find it so interesting. So yeah, I guess that was it. Oh, by the way, normally I always compare this beer to other beers, but it doesn't make sense. This beer is so unique. It doesn't make sense to compare them to IPAs or other Belgian beers. It doesn't. So yeah, just have a happy beer out there.